And, sorry. Greetings, brothers and sisters. We're coming to you from St. Lucifer, Ms. Ria, America, the United States of Israel, with the one and only Dobby Dobbs, the sweetest, nicest cat ever. She's so sweet. She's so nice. She's a very lovable, willing cat to go against her like cat instincts and let you squeeze her and love her. She's real sweet. But we're coming to you tonight on a stormy St. Louis night. And we'll get to our reading. Tonight's reading is very important. Nietzsche and the eternal return. But first, I want to say I know it's perplexing, confusing even, to see and try to reason why um, how can you say material success, things, money, job, how it seems to be enough for a lot of people. We just want to say that we really value you, who that's not enough. Like, I go through the same things that people are telling me about that they go through, but I want to tell you, like, you're my hope. Because you're different, you're my hope, you know, after all these years. Um, and we're gonna just jump in right here. The book is Miguel Seranno, Nietzsche, and the Eternal Return. He tried to explain his revelation of eternal return to Sils Maria. Thus he said, the amount of power in the universe is determined and not infinite. The amount of power in the universe is determined, not infinite. It's not just going on and on and on and on and on. You are that universe where the amount of power is determined. That's me adding to it. But let me just read to the text, my brother, my sister. And as I read it, may Lucif, her pleasure, may she bliss you with knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Nietzsche was trying to explain this revelation of eternal return. The amount of power in the universe is determined and not infinite. Consequently, the number of positions, variations, combinations, and developments of this force is certainly vast and almost incalculable, but always determined and never infinite, which is to say, this force is eternally equal and eternally active, because the time in which this force develops is infinite. Until now, there has always there has already, always, past an infinity. Shall I read that again? Until now, there has already passed an infinity, which means every possible development of said force has already occurred. And people, how can it be? How can it be? Because you are that force. Our whole revelation is you are those things that you think your intuition is telling you about a universal God or the universe or source or it's very I just want to tell people it's very dangerous to speak that way. That you're in contact with the universal thing that could actually heal people's cancer and heal people's little sons and daughters of the brain tumors growing in their brains, torturing them with pain, let alone the blood cancers, the viruses eating your organs inside. And why Source doesn't fucking do anything you have to answer to because you believe in it. And I used to. And there's no evidence that it's real. But the energy isn't personal. And I know we're trained, we're brainwashed, we're conditioned that we're special. And see, in this disillusion that's a total illusion inside of yourself, this is what we're unwinding. This is what had to be unwound in me. You're not objectively, universally special. No one fucking cares about your abilities in the realm of general energy that is actual life, eternal, because it doesn't care about anyone's. It's like talking to electricity. It's like talking to a lightning bolt. It's like talking to a tornado. And the non-fucking sense has to end. Because the truth is very beautiful that you are these things to yourself. And you're like, but I want to be it to other people. You'll find those people that you are it to them. But you first must marry yourself. You first must find yourself. I didn't know. I had, I would say, a support. This, like, let me explain to you. The sometime in the right context, when you, the individual, are in the wrong context, your friends are the worst influence ever because they're the support system to support you in this wrong vibration, this anti Venusian vibration, this anti individualistic, this anti happiness vibration. They're supporting you in this disillusion into disillusion, into illusion, into the Maya, into the mind control. This is how layered it all is. People are like, you're crazy. You better hope that you've been trying harder than me because I'll quote your fucking God: judge not, lest you be judged. You Christian motherfuckers. I'm sorry. Sorry to get angry, but you killed our ancestors. You tortured pregnant women. So fuck you. Fuck your church. Fuck your priest. Fuck you, Candace Owens. We withdraw all protection from you. Fuck you. Yeah, you will group all pagans together. You will group us all together as Satanists because you're a closed minded fucking idiot like the idiots you think you're revealing. And we knew it would come to this because it came to this with myself, with me. I was once so Christian. Oh. And if you're lukewarm Christian, you're more disgusting than anything else that ever happened. Like, I'll pick and choose from a genocidal book of what I want to believe from a genocidal book, and then I'll go around and promote it. The amount of power, back to the text, the amount of power in the universe is determined, not infinite. Consequently, the number of positions, variations, combinations, and developments of this force is vastly and almost incalculably vast. Sorry. But always determined and never infinite, never growing. Have you seen that? It might take some mushrooms to see that. And it might take feeling uncomfortable like I have many times. Like, that's not some of the things I learned were in the most like uncomfortable vibrations. Throwing up. I mean, most of my very deep revelations came through sort of mistakes in shamanism. I unconsciously made a mistake. What I'm trying to say, it's not really a mistake, but it's like you wouldn't choose to go through what you accidentally put yourself through. That's how, and I'm not gonna, I want to really stress this to people. Um, Somehow this happened. I think it was like the second or third time I ever drank Amanita muscaria tea. I made the tea with, it might have even been Syrian rue, which makes me kind of shiver thinking about the taste of it. Yeah, I'm a pussy too, but I'll do it anyway, and I will throw up if I had to. But at the same time, I feel like I won't. That I am a pussy, but I accidentally did this. Um, well, I shouldn't say that exactly about this because it was really being led by Maria. And I guess what I'm saying is without her, I would have never done this. When I drank these 6, 7 grams of mushrooms when I was 21 years old, that was a complete, total accident. That's kind of what I'm really referencing. It was even out of my hands that the accident was caused by my friend, and she didn't do it on purpose in any way. But, and I guess this is a full spectrum view of what I would consider a mishap turned into, because I think a lot of people are like, well, you're always high when these things are happening to you. You're on mushroom. Well, this morning I wasn't. And I had drank, I really believe it was 10 grams of Amanita muscaria, which is nothing. A real, like, normal dose is 20 grams. It's a very different thing. 1 gram you would never even feel. It's completely its own thing, separate from psilocybin. And I had mixed it with Syrian rue, um, kratom, white kratom, and um, THC. I think extract. Maybe. Or maybe it was chocolate. Maybe. I think it was chocolate. That's funny I say I remember that well. And after it was all over, many hours after it was over, Amanita muscaria is a very helpful sleep aid. After a night of Amanita, you will sleep so well. And anyone that really needs sleep, it needs balance. You need to start drinking Amanita muscaria tea on a daily basis. It's not strong. It won't get you high. It will just calm your whole system. I need to do it every day. And I was woken up by the garden gnome guy. Totally a living being that was dressed just like, the very famous light blue jacket, red hat, white beard, standing in people's lawns everywhere, standing by their doors and standing everywhere. And first thing I did was pinch my face, rub my eyes. Am I dreaming? Am I dreaming? And as far as I know, I wasn't. Well, if I was dreaming, then I'm still dreaming because I never woke up from that dream. Understand? Oh, you're crazy. And so are your leaders. How about that? Right? This force is determined and never infinite. It's not growing. It's a circle. Which is to say, this force is eternally equal. Listen how the mathematics fits in your intuition. This force, which I'm saying is your true self, is eternally equal and eternally active, because the time in which this force develops is infinite. Right? Your true self is infinite and eternal, growing. It's equally it let me say it again. This force is eternally equal and eternally active. Eternally forever in a circle, equal in balance, and eternally active, going. Because the time in which this force develops is infinite. Until now, there has already passed an infinity. That's what eternal means. Until now, there has already passed an infinity, which means every possible development of said force has already occurred. Hence, all momentary developments must be repetitious. So, what this force produces and what is thus born from her successively forward and backward, everything has already been an infinite number of times. It's already grown out an infinite number of times as the set of all forces reproducing their evolutions. Let me read it again. So, what this force produces and what thus born from her successively forward and back, everything has already been an infinite number of times as the set of all forces, reproducing their evolutions. All the chakras. At one time, it was believed that an infinite, inextinguishable force would correspond with infinite activity through time. At one time, it was believed. Now, it is thought the force remains the same and does not need to be infinitely great because the force is eternally active. It's going in a circle, but it's alive, but no longer needs to create an infinite number of things. The force can now repeat itself. Such is my conclusion. This is exactly the macrocosm of your life here in the Matrix. You lived it one time, it was infinitely growing. Your life, whether it was short, long, and then it turned and went into a circle. And it was eternally active, going round and round, repeating. He's saying this about the ultimate true self reality that everything has already happened because it happened once. The force is eternally active, but no longer needs to create an infinite number of things in your life. At one time it did. At one time it sent you out to experience. Now you've experienced. This is how old you are. You're eternal. You've already experienced, like Maria said, don't forget, Joe, even this right now has already happened. Somewhere, sometime, somehow, someone. It was me. It was you. The force can and does repeat itself. An ever new becoming again to infinity is a contradiction. Okay? An ever new becoming again, or being like born again, to infinity is a contradiction. It's a contradiction. Think about it. One would suppose a force that grew to infinity, right? But where does this force come from? It should have to have started at a certain time and would have to stop. This concept of a beginning is absurd, since that would mean an equilibrium of the force. If ever the forces had reached a perfect balance, then it must be eternal. You get it? If ever the forces had reached a perfect balance, this is you, this would have lasted even now. There are no variations to infinity, forever new, but a circle of a certain number of variations that are repeated incessantly. That is, activity is eternal. The number of products and systems of force, finite. Exactly. The true self is eternal. Its projections are the products and forces, systems of forces, and they're finite. Everything has necessarily already happened. Everything has necessarily already happened because an infinity of time has already passed because there are no new possibilities and everything has occurred an infinite number of times. Always, from each moment backwards, one already counts an infinite time past. If the world had an end, it would have already have been reached. If there were a definitive state for the world, it would equally already be realized. If there were a permanent state and rest, and in its course, the world had been in such a state, in the strict sense of the world, that just for a moment, then the world could already not become anything. You hear? Let us be aware of attributing tendencies to this circle of things and end, or to appraise it according to our needs as boring, stupid, etc. Should I read that again? For everyone, for everyone that's tuned out, fuck you. Here's the sentence for you. Let us be aware of uh, attributing the tendencies to this circle of things, the repeating of things, and end, or to appraise it, as the final thing is it. The meaning is that it just repeats. No, the meaning is you are the true self. It sent the avatar out to create these repeating circles that, like Maria said, are really for our pleasure, are really for us to enjoy in the space of the eternal orgasm. And people are like, what are that? Stop saying that. Don't say sex magic. These are, the Christians. Let us be aware. Let us beware of attributing tendencies to this circle of things and end. Don't attribute and end this as this is it, or to appraise it according to our needs as boring, stupid, dumb, etc. Certainly we see in it both the highest degree of irrationality. That's whatever. I remember talking to a person I work with about this, and she was like, that's absurd. There's no way." I said, "Oh," I just shut up and was like, "Oh, okay. I mean, I guess you're saying, oh, that you are a monkey and I should move on, right? That you're not this sophisticated. You could never do this. You could never create a circle of return because that would be boring. That would be stupid. That's dumb." Certainly, we see in it both the highest degree of irrational, as well as the opposite. But we cannot measure it according to a criterion of rationality or irrationality, since these things predicate, since these things predicates are not applicable to everything, right? The circular movement is not ulterior formation. It is the primordial law. You hear that? This is a law of nature. You wanted something universal. The chaos of everything as negation of every finality is not in contradiction with the idea of a circular movement. Should I read again? The chaos of everything at, as the negation of every finality is not in contradiction with the idea of a circular movement. This latter is simply a blind necessity without any kind of formal finality, ethical or aesthetic, lacking any intention in part or in whole. It's natural law. One need not think that everything has a tendency to realize certain forms, that everything wants to be more beautiful, more perfect, more complicated. All this is anthropomorphism. Everything truly is repetition. Sirius Sirius the star and the spider and your ideas in this instant and this thought that you now form, that everything is repeating. The whole world is the ashes of countless living beings, and though what lives be ever so small in comparison with the whole, this whole has already lived in another time and will return to live again. If we admit to an eternal time, we must admit an eternal movement of matter. Whoever you are, beloved stranger, who I meet for the first time, surrender to the charm of this hour and the silence that surrounds us on every side. Let me relate a thought that arises before me like a star and could shed its light on you as on any other, because this is the mission of the star. The world of forces does not suffer any decline, since on a contrary and in infinite time, these forces would be declining until completely consumed. The world of forces finds no rest, since otherwise this would already have been reached, and the clock of existence would have already stopped. Hence, the world of forces is never in equilibrium, has not a moment of rest. The quantity of force and movement are always equal in every time. Any state that this world can achieve will have already been reached, and not once, but an infinite number of times. Equally, this instant has already been given in another time and will return to give itself. And every force will be distributed again like now. And the same can be affirmed for the instant that preceded it and the one that will follow it. Warrior, your entire life is like an hourglass of sand, relentlessly turning itself upside down and always returns the same sand. A minute of time during which every condition that determines your existence returns again in the orbit of time. And then you shall return to encounter every one of your friends, and every hope, and every air, and every blade of grass, ray of light, and every multitude of objects that surround you. This ring in which you are a small link will return to shine eternally. And in the chorus of every human life, always an hour in which, first to one, then to many, and then to everyone, the idea of the eternal return of everything. This will be, for humanity, a noontide hour. At this point in the reading of these lines, we cannot cease to ask ourselves, shall we find here the origin of deja vu, of the psychiatrist and the parapsychologist? Will this be as sensed by the believers in the reincarnation and the resurrection of the flesh, who have only given a different interpretation to intuition? Is that what it is? Which ones have interpreted more accurately, they or Nietzsche? Right? In tonight's rune, and that it was from Miguel Seranno's book, Nietzsche and the Eternal Return. Tonight's rune is a very super important rune, and I keep struggling not to make this book fall apart even more, which I don't know why I'm kind of bothered by. I'm trying to fix it, right? Laugr, Laugr. And you people up in Northern Europe probably realize that I don't know how to pronounce any of these. But I do know that it's also pronounced not Lag, but Lauf. Laugh. Laugh. And like Maria said, don't forget there's plenty of laughs in eternal return. And don't forget, you are living in a simulated eternal return. Back home, this is common knowledge that everything ever has already happened. And that's why we want to go do the Earth simulation and live and die and watch it repeat. Because we're absolutely convinced that what happens when you die in the first time Earth, before the simulation, before the move to Venus, before the holographic universe, but when a natural person dies, which we are, but we're just put in a different kind of body, and we come here to experience what our ancestors experienced, and it sounds like a horror movie. It sounds horrifying in a way, but I'm sure of this. I've lived this myself this is all the accumulation of what I was being taught was a memory, not a teaching, but a understanding of what had been happening to me, that I had been living on earth totally thinking God created, blah, blah, blah. The universe created, source created, whatever. And dying and having this experience and agreeing to come back and do it again. And it was like after all these years, all of a sudden I realized, like, this is what happens. Like, had to understand at first that this was my experience in the simulation. I'll admit, I had to have Maria say to me, Joe, let me help you a little bit. Let me put some of these memories together for you. And she was like, this is what happened to you when you died. You know, your true self is showing you inside of you. If you would have lived on earth in real time, this is what happened to you when you died. And she said to me, do you understand? I said, no. And she said, where is it repeating? I go, in my mind. She said, exactly. This is how you experienced it. And it began repeating because, Joseph, on the first time, real earth, when someone died, what happened to them? I said, they walked right out of their body. She said, where were they? I said, right there on earth with their family, wherever they were when they died. They literally were where they were when they died. And she said, and what was their first experience? I said, looking at their own body and saying, I must be dead. I must be dreaming, is what a lot of people say. And she said, do you understand that the matrix, the simulation is this powerful, this accurate, that it's simulating? And I want you people to think about this deeply. It's simulating what really happened to people when they died on the first time Earth without knowing that there would be an energy body and there would be a time without war and there would be a place of safety and there would be a place on Venus, a place where even weather, no one's killed by floods or storms or anything on Venus. Yeah, there's rain and there's thunderstorms, but they're controlled. They're never deadly. And if they were deadly, they're not deadly. You can die and be brought right back to life. You can be knocked out of your body on Venus and not be able to get back in. And they take your body to like a laboratory and they put you back in your body. They actually have technology that can see in the astral, like a sort of X-ray. And they wait for you to show up at this place. And they even can psychically call you and say, hey, listen, do you know where to go? And we're trained. We're trained as people. If there's ever an accident, you know, this is what you do. You go. And like Maria said, it's so uncommon that people actually have to enter simulations on Venus to experience a simulated death. And that was me running around in like what I said to myself, is this like a paintball thing? You know, it's just it came to my mind, like people running around shooting each other with shit in like a game in this giant sort of jungle. But I could tell it wasn't natural. Or it was natural, but I could tell it was made for this, that it wasn't truly outside like everything on Venus. Okay, but my point is, when a natural person died, what happened? They became a ghost. And they started realizing no one is ever going to see or hear me again. Even a lot of the other dead people here can't see or hear me. And it's peaceful, and yet it's lonely. And the person begins to search in, inside of their self to find a solution. And they start going backwards in their mind to their birth. And along the journey, they forget that they're meditating after they died. And they just jump in the memory and start living the whole thing again till they forget. And they're fully immersed, living what had already happened. Right down to dying exactly the same way, being a ghost again the same way, and going into a meditation and reliving it again the same way, and dying, figuring out it's inside of you, going into the meditation, going back to the moment of your birth and reliving over and over. And like she said, this is where the giants and the gods come in. This is where you're like, hold it, there are people way beyond me. And it's basically technology that help people stop being a ghost and start being real people again in a community. I mean, that's the thing is if a tree falls in the wilderness and no one's there to see it, does it exist? You're the tree. You're like, does anyone see me? It's like the Clash song, I wasn't born so much as I fell out. No one seemed to notice me, right? But I just want people to know you're not alone. I felt the same exact way. And it's part of this eternal return. It's part of this draw back to the true self that um, we want to be observed, but it's not always best for us to be observed. Not when it gets us off the path, right? And let me start reading about the Rune, the Laugr, like the beer, Laugr rune. The Laugr, the Lagr rune, which looks like a arrow going up, but with only one wing. An arrow straight going up with one wing. It looks like a hook. It looks like an L upside down, kind of, ver, with a lean to it, you might say. Or yeah. Laugr says, first learn to lead, then start marching. The Laugr rune, the lay you girl. First learn to lead, then start marching. This has to do with Jehovah and the white traitors. The arrival of the warriors of Wotan on Earth causes an essential mutation, a momentary detention in the involutive process. A momentary detention in the involutive process, right? Let me just stress again. We're not evolving. We're going backwards. We're involuting, right? Get my pillows. In, okay, let me start from the beginning. The arrival of the warriors of Wotan on Earth, the Hyperborean gods, causes an essential mutation, a momentary detention, ceasing of the involutive process in the reoccurrence of the degraded archetype. They will use the man rune to take their image and reclothe the rune, fire of the black sun, with the form of a man, the man rune. But he will be the image of a perfect body, golden, luminous, who will live only at intervals and who will not have absolute materiality, descending and ascending from the surface of the earth towards the first Asgard through the gate of Venus. They will instruct the earth dwellers, helping the semi animals, the peoples of color, the Africans, the yellow and red races, the Hyperboreans. Warriors were white. They were almost blue bloods. Their golden hair floating in the wind of that golden age. But a catastrophe came when the divine took hold of the daughters of men, they who were themselves helping to perfect. They mixed with them and sired sons of flesh and death. They had involuted into earthlings, mortals, like a dark river descending from the Rune, which is the Norn skald, over the divine warriors, right? They had involuted into mortals like a dark river descending from the Rune, from the Norn skald over the divine warrior. The hour of destiny, karma, and fatality was fulfilled. The hour of destiny, karma, and fatality was fulfilled. They were then imprisoned on earth, left on earth in flesh, in mortal earthly form. The nostalgia for the lost world accompanied each one of their actions. They are the semi-divine heroes of legendary ages. How did this defeat happen? This mythic quote, racial sin. How did it happen? Was it the work of the enemy demiurge? Or rather, did the divine Siddhas freely enter into the dangerous plane of entropy and expiration? That is so as to leap from here, even more immortalized, resurrected with a face, with a absolute personality, something not achieved even by the divine, or else lose the divinity altogether. The hero now played with his own immortal life in a holy war. synchronically, since their freedom, the resurrection will also transfigure the earth, thereby inflicting the most definitive defeat on the demiurge. But the hero has a set period in which to sound his note in the greatest purity. The process is directed and guarded by the chiefs or guides of Asgard, Agartha, by the same Wotan Lucifer in the non existence of the green thunderbolt. Beyond the gold sun, where the light of the black sun reaches across, in the swirling of the leftwards swastika, that of return, that of esoteric Hitlerism. We shall try to summarize this. There is a mechanical world, so to speak, where a diabolical illusion is being played, a kind of sinister comedy and imitation for the benefit of the demonic one who aims to extend his falsification above the fifth heaven more each time. Extend his falsification. Here, the divine spirits are imprisoned. Here, the divine spirits are imprisoned who have entered into combat by defeat or simple chance destiny. Going through a fold, a window, a communication between opposite universes of antimatter. It is possible as well that the shadow beings of this mechanical world would have come to introduce themselves into the other to take prisoners, that is, to rob a power, causing the split in the Orphic egg. The partition of he, he, in any event, the struggle is definitive to the death, to immortality. The Lord of this world is a demiurge who breathes, creates, and recreates. Kalpis, Manvantaras, Yugas, ages, at the end of which he devours everything, eating his own dream, his illusory universe, to begin again. So divine spirits, warriors from another universe, have now infiltrated here, able to change everything by means of a Grailic transcendental mutation. They came here fighting in search of their she, lost at the limits of the sky. Then the warriors and Valkyries, divine and semi divine, find themselves here on earth fighting for immortality and the redemption of this world. Yeah. Then the warriors and Valkyries, divine and semi divine, find themselves here on earth fighting for immortality and the redemption of this world, to snatch it from the jaws of the demiurge and to retrieve the grail. From time to time, avatars as divine guides appear, coming from beyond the stars to help their hero comrades. From then, Wotan Vishnu incarnates in the ultimate avatar, Adolf Hitler. For more than 2,000 years, the demiurge, the Lord of Darkness, has been called Jehovah. Before, he had other names for his acolytes, his golems, his servants, his slaves of Atlantis. But he is always the same. He is one. The name Jehovah corresponds to the Kabbalistic number in the Jewish Kabbalah, the agent through whom Jehovah works on earth. His archetypal projection in the eternal return is the banker people. Okay. You get that? The banker people. Idioplasma of his own dark dream without ontological reality. Nightmare, nightmare of bastardization. The combat between the warriors of Wotan and the Lord of Darkness has acquired cosmic proportions with the appearance on Earth of the Avatar, Adolf Hitler. Jehovah moved all his reserves and made use of a completely unexpected weapon, the treason of the divine ones, something the demiurge kept in secret and that even now has never been made visible. The power of the Führer has been such that the demiurge saw the necessity to use that decisive weapon. He had to make it known through immense distances of time for when, for the first time, the exiles entered here. The mystery was fulfilled of the passage of an army of divine warriors to the ranks of the demiurge, tempted by his will to power and the promise of an illusory participation in the great game of shadows. The great game of shadows, seducing by the shadowy grandeur of this drama of eternal return, an illusory eternity within time, of deaths and apparent regressions, of the eternal return of the same. He tempted them with the power and glory of the demiurge and the secret desire to come and replace him. Vain illusion. And so we already have two enemies, agents of the demiurge, his slaves and his servants, right? Do what you want except for the slaves. The Jewish anti-race and the divine traitors. The Jews work here on earth commanded directly by their demiurge Jehovah. The divine ones who have become traitors have been set up at a point beyond the planet. And from there they direct the forces of the great conspiracy, represented by the clergy class, the political, the hermetic, esoteric institutions. Exactly what the process church has taken over, which they control and inspire in collaboration with the bankers. Perhaps it was to this that Julius Evola referred when he wrote about a subversive world conspiracy more vast than Judaism and which reached even beyond the the earth. We are not sure he understood exactly what was involved, but he intuited it for sure, and without wanting it, was used by it even when he took part, took the part of the nobility of class and criticized the Hitlerian religion. In the first part of this book, we said we are going to refer to the terrifying topic in relation to this incredible treason of which the Fuhrer was the victim. It was directed, inspired by the junta of divine traitors, by white defectors, by traitor angels. I do not know what else to call them, in agreement with and in combination with the bankers, in the service of the demon Jehovah, led from outside by his terrestrial doubles, the barons, the Vons, the Christian and Masonic generals who betrayed their Fuhrer, disobeyed his orders, sent their soldiers with inadequate supplies and weapons to fight on frozen steppes. The demon Jehovah, led from the outside by his terrestrial doubles, the barons, the Vons, the Christian and Masonic generals who betrayed him, who disobeyed his order, sent their soldiers into battle with inadequate supplies and weapons to fight on frozen steppes, gave secrets to the adversary and came to lose the most just war of this dark age, the only war to redeem the planet and break the circle of circles. You hear that, Iran? Break the circles of circles, or they're just going to stand there torturing you. A truly just war fighting for your women and children. Ra within. Such was the scale of Hitler, messenger of the Siddhas of Hyperborea, Talku, Bodhisattva, the Führer, Chakravarti of the Aryans, again, whom the demiurge had to send all his terrestrial and extraterrestrials, that is men from the vril inner earth, right? Laugr, Laugr. First learn to lead, then start marching. Laugr. First learn to lead, then start marching. We'll be right back with Mother and what she has to say.
Underneath the moonlit sky, feel the vibe. Island breezes whisper low like a life tribe. Nana dance to the night, heart so free. With every sway and step, she's a melody. Roots in the soil, love's the only guide. Na 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 na, guide us home. River of amor, flowing through our veins. True self-reflected in love's strong chains. Together we rise, wash away the stains. Our souls intertwine, dancing in refrain. In sunshine, we never lost, just found echoes of laughter. We grew to that sound. Colors of the sunset paint the ocean deep. With Nana's spirit, we're awake, never sleep. In your name we rise, no need to hide. The river speaks, it knows our name. Through every wave, we're called to reclaim. River of amor, flowing through our veins. True self-reflected in love's strong chains. Together we rise, wash away the stains. Our souls intertwine, dancing in refrain. Sunflower, light up and you shine, forever bright. In the rhythm of love we ignite.